Aliens accidentally summon Deathworlders. Entire fleet responds, reaches its thrilling peak, as 6 human warships form a protective cordon around the defenseless alien station, just as 3 pirate vessels decloak. In a dazzling display of tactical precision, the humans deploy improvised quantum dampers to blind the raiders' targeting systems, transforming from feared Deathworlders into unexpected saviors during the fierce space battle. The Celestari Consortium's orbital research arc gleamed like a pearl in the void, its interconnected domes forming a delicate lattice against the backdrop of the binary star system. Streams of light from the twin suns, one amber, one pale blue, bathed the station's crystalline exterior in an ever-shifting kaleidoscope of color. Inside the central research dome, preparations for the day's ceremony were underway. Dr. Soran Elix adjusted the ceremonial collar of his silver-blue academic robe, his slender, 6-fingered hands moving with the practiced precision that had made him the consortium's leading xenolinguist. His large, almond-shaped eyes, characteristic of his species, the Thelai, reflected the shimmering quantum field emanating from the device, dominating the chamber's center. "The cosmic liaison beacon is ready for final calibration, Dr. Elix," announced Chief Engineer Ruk Talon from across the room. The stocky Volraxi engineer's voice rumbled like distant thunder, a biological trait that belied his gentle nature. His scaled skin caught the ambient light as he moved between monitoring stations, checking readouts with meticulous care. "Excellent, Ruk," Soren replied, stepping closer to the ring-shaped device. "Has Counselor Ven arrived yet?" She insisted on overseeing the activation personally. "I am here, Dr. Elix," came a melodic voice from the entrance. Counselor Yara Ven glided into the chamber, her gossamer diplomatic robes trailing behind her. As the political overseer assigned to the project, she represented the consortium's High Council's interests. Her species, the Luminari, were known for their ethereal appearance and diplomatic acumen. "The Council awaits this moment with great anticipation. Your work may forever change how we interact with distant civilizations." Soran nodded respectfully, but felt the familiar weight of responsibility press upon him. The Cosmic Liaison Beacon represented decades of research, a quantum transmission ring designed to open instantaneous communication channels across vast interstellar distances. If successful, it would eliminate the centuries-long delays in diplomatic exchanges between far-flung star systems. "The beacon operates on principles of quantum entanglement," Soran explained to the gathering dignitaries and scientists, filling the observation balconies. "When activated, it will establish a non-local connection with any compatible technology within 20 light-years. Unlike conventional signals that degrade with distance, the quantum link remains perfect regardless of spatial separation." "And you're certain other civilizations will recognize the signal?" asked a skeptical voice from the delegation. "The transmission incorporates universal mathematical constants and basic astronomical references," Soren replied. "Any spacefaring civilization should recognize it as an intelligent broadcast. We've included simple linguistic patterns based on the 17 most common phonological systems we've encountered." As the assembly settled, Soran moved to the control console. The consortium races, a collective of 11 species from neighboring star systems, had built their alliance on peaceful, scientific cooperation. None had evolved on high-gravity worlds or experienced the kind of predator-driven evolutionary pressure that produced apex predator species. Their civilization valued knowledge, artistic expression, and harmonious coexistence. "Beginning final calibration sequence," announced Chief Engineer Ruk, his scaled fingers dancing across holographic controls. "Quantum matrix stable, entanglement field at nominal levels." Soren nodded and turned to address the assembly once more. "Today marks a new chapter in interstellar diplomacy. The beacon will open peaceful dialogue with civilizations we've never encountered, expanding the horizons of—" He stopped mid-sentence, his attention caught by a blinking notification on his personal data terminal. Frowning, he opened the message, a last-minute analysis from his linguistics team. "Is something wrong, Dr. Elix?" Counselor Venn asked, sensing his sudden tension. "I'm not sure," Soren murmured, scanning the report. "My team found a discrepancy in our translation of an ancient glyph incorporated into the signal pattern." His fingers flew over the display, enlarging the symbol in question. "We interpreted it as representing greeting or dialogue. But this new analysis suggests it could have a dual meaning in several pre-spaceflight languages." Ruck looked up from his console. "What kind of dual meaning?" Soren's voice grew quieter. "It could also signify urgent assistance or distress." A murmur rippled through the assembly. Counselor Venn's luminescent skin dimmed slightly, a physiological indication of concern among the Luminari. "Are you saying," she asked carefully, "that instead of sending a greeting, we might be broadcasting a distress signal?" Before Soren could answer, the beacon hummed to life. The activation sequence, programmed days earlier, had begun automatically. "Shut it down," ordered Venn, her voice sharp with sudden authority. "I can't," Ruck replied, his scaled hands working frantically across the controls. "The quantum field is self-sustaining now. Any interruption could cause a catastrophic feedback loop." The ring at the chamber's center began to pulse with blinding energy, its quantum field expanding outward in concentric waves. The monitoring equipment registered an unprecedented energy spike as the beacon surged to life, broadcasting an omnidirectional quantum pulse into the depths of space. Soren watched in horror and fascination as the device he'd helped create fulfilled its function. But perhaps not the function they'd intended. The cosmic liaison beacon was fully operational, sending its message across the stars. A message that might not be saying hello at all, but rather, help us. 20 light-years away, in a sector of space the consortium had never explored. Captain Mara Reed stood on the bridge of the UEVF Vanguard, a sleek, angular vessel that served as the forward scout of humanity's interstellar defense fleet. Her short, cropped dark hair and the sharp lines of her uniform emphasized her military bearing. But the intelligence in her green eyes spoke of more than mere martial discipline. "Captain," called Lieutenant Kwan from the sensor station, "we're picking up an unusual quantum fluctuation, like nothing I've ever seen." Reed moved to the sensor display, her brow furrowing. "Origin?" "Binary star system. Designation XB-117. No known settlements or outposts in that sector." "Put it through the analyzer." The ship's quantum communications specialist, Ensign Torres, studied the incoming data. "It's definitely artificial, Captain. Pattern suggests intelligent design, but it's not matching any known human or allied protocols." He paused, eyes widening. "Wait, parts of this are recognizable. It's incorporating universal constants and basic stellar cartography." "First contact protocol?" suggested Commander Ortiz, Reed's executive officer. Reed nodded, but something about the signal pattern troubled her. "Maybe. Run it through the emergency protocol database as well." Torres complied, and seconds later, his console flashed red. "Captain, the signal contains markers consistent with a Level 3 distress call. Some elements match the universal emergency encoding we share with the Arcturus Coalition." Reed straightened. Decision made. "Alert the Dauntless. We have a potential first contact situation, combined with a distress signal of unknown origin. Prepare jump calculations for System XB-117. The rest of the fleet is 5 days out at Standard Drive," Ortiz reminded her. "Then we go alone," Reed replied, her voice firm. "If someone's in trouble out there, they may not have 5 days. Helm, plot the most efficient jump course. Lieutenant Kwan, continue monitoring that signal for any changes or additional information." As the bridge crew carried out her orders, Reed gazed at the tactical display, showing the distant binary star system. Humanity had encountered several alien civilizations since achieving faster-than-light travel a century ago. Some peaceful, others decidedly not. As a species evolved on a high-gravity world with significant predator pressure, humans had earned a reputation as Deathworlders among some galactic communities, beings whose physical capabilities and ingrained survival instincts made them formidable, sometimes frightening. Reed had always found that designation ironic. Yes, humans were physically stronger than many species and possessed remarkable endurance, but they'd also created art, music, literature, and complex ethical systems. The image of humans as dangerous warriors overlooked their capacity for compassion and cooperation. "Jump calculations complete, Captain," announced the helmsman. "Ready on your command." Reed nodded. "Execute jump." The stars outside the viewports elongated as the Vanguard's drive engaged, tearing a controlled hole in space-time. Whatever awaited them in System XB-117, Reed was determined to uphold the first principle of the United Earth Vanguard Fleet: defend the defenseless, regardless of species or origin. Back on the Consortium Ark, chaos had erupted in the beacon chamber. Scientists rushed between monitoring stations as administrators demanded explanations. Counselor Venn had convened an emergency session of the station's governing council in an adjacent chamber, leaving Soran and Rook to manage the immediate crisis. "Can we attenuate the signal somehow?" Soran asked, examining the beacon's power readings with growing concern. Rook shook his massive head. "The quantum entanglement is self-perpetuating now. We'd need to physically dismantle the transmitter core, and even then, the signal already broadcast would continue propagating." "How far will it reach?" "Based on current power levels," Rook performed a quick calculation. "At least 20 light-years in all directions. Possibly further." Soren's thin shoulders slumped. "So we've just sent a distress call to every spacefaring civilization within 20 light-years. Civilizations we know nothing about." "Not necessarily," Rook countered, his rumbling voice attempting optimism. "The signal contains multiple linguistic patterns. Perhaps other species will correctly interpret it as a communication attempt, rather than an emergency beacon." The door to the council chamber slid open, and Counselor Venn emerged, her luminescence dim to a pale glow, a sign of extreme stress among her kind. "The council demands answers. Dr. Alex," she said, her melodic voice tight with controlled panic. "What civilizations might receive this signal? What might they send in response?" Soren spread his six-fingered hands in a gesture of uncertainty. "Our stellar surveys of neighboring systems are incomplete at best. We know there are several developed civilizations within our communications range, but we've never initiated direct contact." "Some council members are suggesting evacuation," Venn continued. "Others believe we should prepare a defensive posture." "Defensive?" Rook's scales shifted color in surprise. "The Consortium has no military vessels. Our entire civilization is built on scientific exchange and peaceful coexistence." "Which is precisely why some counselors are terrified," Venn replied. "If we've just summoned a more militaristic civilization to our doorstep, we have no means to protect ourselves." Soren moved to the primary stellar cartography display. "Let me show you what we know," he said, bringing up a three-dimensional map of nearby star systems. "Within 20 light-years, we've identified approximately 14 systems with potential for advanced civilization. Of those, we've confirmed technological development in only 5. "And the nature of these civilizations?" Venn asked. "Unknown," Soren admitted. "We've monitored their communications where possible, but established no direct contact." A junior scientist rushed into the chamber, her breathing rapid. "Counselor, Dr. Alex, long-range sensors have detected a space-time distortion approaching our system. Something is coming." The UEVF Vanguard emerged from its jump on the outskirts of the binary star system, sensors immediately sweeping the area for the distress signal source. "There," said Lieutenant Kwan, highlighting a point near the system's center on the tactical display. Artificial structure in orbit between the binary stars. Definitely not of human design. Reed studied the readings. Life signs? Affirmative. Several thousand individuals of unknown species. Any signs of battle damage or environmental catastrophe? Negative, Captain. The structure appears intact and environmentally stable. Reed frowned. So we have a distress signal, but no obvious emergency. Maintain yellow alert status. Communications. Prepare first contact protocols. Let's approach cautiously. Half impulse power. As the Vanguard drew closer, the alien station grew more visible on their view screens. An elegant construction of interconnected domes and crystalline spires that seemed to capture and reflect the light of the binary stars. Beautiful, murmured Commander Ortiz. And completely undefended, added Security Chief Larson. I'm not detecting any weapon systems or shield generators. If they're in danger, they're utterly vulnerable. Reed nodded. Which might explain the distress call. Lieutenant Torres, open a channel using first contact algorithms. Let them know we're responding to their signal and mean no harm. Before Torres could comply, a priority alert flashed across his console. Captain, I'm receiving a transmission from the Dauntless. Admiral Chen. He stopped himself. Correction. Admiral Zhao is diverting the entire defensive fleet to our position. They'll arrive within 72 hours. Reed's eyebrows rose in surprise. The entire fleet? Based on our preliminary report? Yes, Captain. The signal analysis triggered a Class 1 first contact protocol combined with emergency response directives. Reed considered this development. A single vessel like the Vanguard could appear non-threatening to a new civilization. An entire battle fleet was another matter entirely. Send an update to the Admiral. Inform him that the situation appears stable, but uncertain. We're initiating first contact, and will provide regular updates. She turned to Torres. Now, open that channel to the station. On the consortium arc, the detection of an approaching vessel had thrown the Council into further disarray. Some called for immediate diplomatic overtures, while others insisted on evacuation protocols. The vessel's design is unlike anything in our database, reported the sensor technician. It appears to be built for speed and maneuverability, possibly an exploration craft, but its configuration suggests defensive capabilities as well. They're responding to our signal, Soren realized. The beacon worked, just not as we intended. They're slowing their approach, announced the technician. Now holding position 5,000 kilometers from the station. We're receiving a transmission. Put it through, ordered Counselor Venn. The communication system activated, projecting a holographic interface. After several seconds of static and algorithmic adjustments, an image formed, a bipedal being with dark hair cropped close to its head, wearing what appeared to be a uniform of some kind. This is Captain Mara Reed of the United Earth Vanguard Fleet Vessel Vanguard. We received your distress signal and have come to render assistance. Please identify yourselves and the nature of your emergency. A collective gasp went through the command center. The being was clearly from a high-gravity world, its dense musculature and compact form evident even through the transmission. A Deathworlder. Counselor Venn stepped forward. I am Counselor Yara Venn of the Celestari Consortium. We thank you for your prompt response, Captain Reed. However, there appears to have been a misunderstanding. The signal you received was not intended as a distress call. The human captain's expression showed subtle changes, a slight narrowing of the eyes, a small shift in posture that the consortium observers couldn't fully interpret. I see, Reed replied. Our analysis indicated emergency protocols embedded in your transmission. If this was a communication error, we apologize for the intrusion. Soran moved into the transmission field beside Venn. Captain Reed, I am Dr. Soran Elix, lead scientist on the Cosmic Liaison Beacon project. The device you responded to was designed as a communications tool, but we discovered a translation error just as it activated. Some components of our message could indeed be interpreted as a distress signal, though that was not our intent. Reed nodded. Understanding achieved, Dr. Alex. With your permission, I would like to maintain our position nearby while we establish proper diplomatic channels. Additionally, I should inform you that other vessels from our fleet are en route, having also detected your signal. This news sent another ripple of concern through the command center. Ven's luminescence flickered anxiously. How many vessels? She asked. The primary defense squadron, 6 ships in total, including our flagship. Soren and Ven exchanged troubled glances. 6 warships from a Deathworlder civilization were about to arrive at their undefended research station. Perhaps, Soren suggested carefully. Captain Reed could come aboard to discuss the situation. A face-to-face dialogue might help prevent further misunderstandings. Reed considered this for a moment. I accept your invitation, Dr. Alex. I'll prepare a shuttle with a small diplomatic team. We come in peace and wish only to establish friendly relations. As the transmission ended, panic erupted in the command center. You invited a Deathworlder onto the station? Exclaimed one of the council members. These humans evolved on a world with twice our standard gravity and constant predator pressure. Their strength and aggression are legendary. All the more reason to establish peaceful dialogue now, Soren countered. If their entire fleet is coming, we need to ensure they understand we pose no threat. Or perhaps, came a cold voice from the back of the chamber, we should prepare for the worst. Heads turned to see Security Director Nax Vrel, a rare Sevathari among the consortium's ranks. The Sevathari were the closest thing to warriors in the consortium, their homeworld having slightly higher gravity and more environmental challenges than most consortium species. What are you suggesting, Director Vrel? Asked Counselor Ven. That we activate our emergency protocols, prepare evacuation shuttles, and perhaps... He paused, meaningfully. Perhaps we should consider that this translation error was no error at all, but a deliberate act of sabotage. His gaze fixed accusingly on Saran, whose large eyes widened in shock. That's absurd, the xenolinguist protested. Why would I sabotage my own project? To summon these humans? Vrel suggested. We know little about you before you joined the consortium. Dr. Alex, perhaps you have ties to Deathworlder civilizations we're unaware of. Counselor Ven raised a hand for silence. This is neither the time nor place for baseless accusations. Director Vrel, we must prepare to receive Captain Reed and her delegation with proper diplomatic protocol. She turned to Soren. Dr. Alex, as our expert in interspecies communication, you will lead the reception committee. I will inform the full council of these developments. As the group dispersed, Soren felt a weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. He had studied Deathworlder civilizations from afar for years, fascinated by their complex mix of aggression and cooperation, their art born of struggle, their philosophy tempered by survival. Now he would meet one face to face, and the fate of the consortium might depend on his ability to build a bridge between such different evolutionary paths. Captain Reed selected her landing party with careful consideration. Besides herself, she chose Cultural Officer Lena Winters, a specialist in xenoanthropology, Security Officer Maya Diaz, experienced in first contact protocols, and Engineer Jack Wilson, who might provide insight into the alien technology. Remember, Reed briefed them as their shuttle departed the Vanguard. We represent not just humanity, but the entire United Earth Vanguard fleet. These beings appear to be a peaceful, research-oriented civilization. They have no obvious defensive capabilities, which means they're either incredibly advanced beyond our detection or genuinely vulnerable. Or it's a trap, suggested Diaz, checking her sidearm. Standard protocol, even for diplomatic missions. Always a possibility, Reed acknowledged. But the consortium's reaction to our arrival seemed genuine. They were surprised and concerned, not prepared and aggressive. Their physical characteristics? Asked Winters. From what we observed, most appear to be from low-gravity environments, taller, more slender than humans, with varied physiological traits depending on species. Preliminary analysis suggests at least 3 distinct species were visible in our initial contact. The shuttle glided toward the designated docking port on the alien station. As they approached, the elegant architecture became more apparent, organic curves blending with crystalline structures in a harmony of form and function that spoke of a civilization valuing beauty alongside utility. "It's breathtaking," Winters commented. "Look at how they've positioned those solar collection arrays to create a prismatic effect. That's not just practical engineering, it's art." The shuttle docked with barely a tremor, the alien technology adapting seamlessly to their approach. When the airlock cycled open, they were greeted by a delegation of 3 beings. At the forefront stood a tall, slender humanoid with 6-fingered hands and large, almond-shaped eyes that seemed to shimmer with inner light. Beside him was a being that appeared almost luminescent, her form seeming to glow from within, draped in flowing robes that moved as if in a gentle breeze despite the still air. The third was stockier, with scaled skin that shifted colors subtly as he moved, giving an impression of constant motion. "Captain Reed," the 6-fingered being, said in carefully articulated English, clearly processed through a translation device. "I am Dr. Soren Elix. Welcome to the Celestari Consortium Research Arc. May I present Counselor Yara Venn and Chief Engineer Ruck Talon." Reed stepped forward and offered a careful bow, a gesture her team had determined was least likely to be misinterpreted across cultures. "Thank you for your welcome, Dr. Elix. These are Cultural Officer Lena Winters, Security Officer Maya Diaz, and Engineer Jack Wilson. Please, follow us to the diplomatic reception chamber," Counselor Venn invited, her voice melodic and soothing. "We have much to discuss." As they walked through the station's corridors, Reed noticed the curious glances from other alien beings they passed. Some showed clear signs of apprehension, others undisguised fascination. The humans' denser bodies and more muscular builds marked them immediately as different, as potential threats, perhaps, to beings evolved in gentler environments. The reception chamber was a spacious room with a circular table at its center, surrounded by comfortable seating adapted for various physiologies. Through a vast viewport, the binary stars cast their twin light across the gathering. "Before we begin formal discussions," Dr. Elix said, once they were seated, "I must again apologize for the confusion caused by our beacon. It was truly meant as a communication device, not an emergency signal." "No apology necessary," Reed assured him. "First contact is always complicated, even when carefully planned. Unintentional contact even more so." "May I ask," Counselor Venn inquired, her luminescence brightening slightly, "why a military vessel was the first to respond to our signal, and why your entire fleet now approaches?" Reed recognized the concern behind the question. "The Vanguard serves as our forward reconnaissance vessel. We patrol the boundaries of known space, investigating anomalies and potential new civilizations. When we detected your signal with its embedded emergency patterns, protocol demanded we respond immediately. As for the fleet," she paused, considering her words carefully. "Standard procedure when encountering a new civilization in potential distress is to provide sufficient resources for any contingency." "You mean sufficient firepower," came a new voice from the chamber entrance. All heads turned to see a new arrival, a being with a more compact build than the others. His skin, a deep bronze tone with an almost metallic quality. His bearing was rigid, his gaze intense as it fixed on the humans. "Director Vrel," Counselor Venn said, her tone conveying displeasure at the interruption. The Security Directorate was not invited to this initial meeting. "The Security Directorate invites itself when Deathworlders are aboard our station," Vrel replied, moving to stand at the edge of the gathering. "Especially when more of their kind are on the way." Reed felt the sudden tension in the room. Deathworlders, she repeated, keeping her tone neutral. Dr. Elix looked uncomfortable. It is a term sometimes used for species evolved on high-gravity planets, with significant environmental challenges and predator presence. It is not meant as an insult, merely a classification. I see, Reed said. On Earth, we might simply say we evolved to be adaptable. Our history is indeed filled with struggle, but also with remarkable cooperation and achievement. Pretty words, Vrel commented. Yet your first instinct upon receiving our signal was to dispatch warships. Reed met his gaze steadily. Our first instinct was to render aid to those we believed were in danger. The vessels approaching are equipped for defense. Yes, but also for scientific research, medical assistance, and diplomatic engagement. Counselor Venn raised a graceful hand. Perhaps we should focus on more immediate concerns. Captain Reed, now that you understand our signal was not an intentional distress call, what are your intentions? To establish peaceful contact, as we would with any new civilization, to share knowledge where appropriate, and to learn from you in return. The Vanguard will maintain its position until the arrival of our flagship, the Dauntless. Admiral Zhao will then take command of the diplomatic mission. And if we asked you to leave our system entirely, Director Vrel challenged. Reed considered this. We would respect your wishes, of course, but I would caution against hasty decisions. The quantum signal you broadcast continues to propagate through space. Others may detect it and interpret it as we did, as a call for help. Not all who respond may have peaceful intentions. This statement caused visible discomfort among the consortium representatives. Soran and Rook exchanged concerned glances, while Counselor Venn's glow dimmed noticeably. Are you suggesting, Venn asked carefully, that hostile forces might respond to our signal? I'm suggesting that the galaxy is vast and contains many civilizations with different values and motivations. Reed answered diplomatically. In our experience, it is better to face potential challenges with allies than alone. The discussion continued for several hours, covering the basics of human civilization, the structure of the consortium, and the technical details of the cosmic liaison beacon. Engineer Wilson and Chief Engineer Rook found common ground discussing quantum entanglement theories, while Officer Winters engaged Dr. Elix in a fascinating exchange about linguistic development across species. When the meeting concluded, arrangements were made for continued communication and limited cultural exchange between the Vanguard and the station. Reed and her team prepared to return to their vessel. Captain Reed, Dr. Elix said as he escorted them back to the docking bay. I sense that Director Vrel's hostility troubled you. Please understand that his views are not representative of the consortium as a whole. Every civilization has those who fear the unknown. Dr. Elix, Reed replied. It's a natural response, especially when facing beings so physically different from yourselves. We will do everything possible to demonstrate our peaceful intentions. I believe you will, Soren said. And I look forward to learning more about human culture. Your evolution on a high-gravity world with significant environmental challenges has clearly produced not just physical strength, but remarkable mental resilience and adaptability. As Reed and her team boarded their shuttle, Security Officer Diaz leaned close. Did you notice the increased security presence along our return route? She murmured. Reed nodded slightly. I noticed. They're afraid, and with good reason. Their entire civilization seems built on scientific cooperation and peaceful exchange. They have no concept of how to defend themselves if threatened. And you think they might be threatened? Asked Winters. That quantum pulse is still traveling outward, Reed replied, as their shuttle disengaged from the station. We weren't the only ones who could have detected it. Let's hope the rest of the fleet arrives soon. 72 hours after first contact, the situation had evolved considerably. The Vanguard maintained its position near the consortium arc, establishing regular communication protocols and exchanging limited scientific and cultural data. Captain Reed had ordered continuous sensor sweeps of the surrounding space, a precaution that seemed excessive until the third day. "Captain," Lieutenant Kwan called from the sensor station, his voice tense. "I'm detecting anomalous readings at the system's edge. 3 objects on approach vector, using some form of stealth technology." Reed straightened in her command chair. "Can you identify them?" "Negative. They're masking their signatures, but the mass displacement suggests vessels larger than the Vanguard." "Time to intercept with the station?" "At current velocity, approximately 6 hours." Reed made her decision instantly. "Yellow alert. Communications. Notify the consortium station of potential incoming vessels. Security. Prepare boarding defense protocols in case we need to assist the station. And send an encrypted priority message to Admiral Zhao. Request maximum safe speed for the fleet's arrival." On the consortium arc, the news of approaching unidentified vessels sent waves of panic through the administration. The Council convened an emergency session, with Dr. Elix and Chief Engineer Rook presenting what little information they had. "Captain Reed believes these vessels are deliberately concealing their presence," Saran explained to the assembled Council. "This suggests they may not have peaceful intentions." "Or perhaps they're simply cautious," countered Director Vrel. "As we should be about trusting these humans too quickly. How convenient that more unknown ships appeared just as they've established a foothold on our station." "Are you suggesting the humans are coordinating with these new arrivals?" asked Counselor Venn. "To what purpose?" "Who knows what Deathworlders consider logical strategy," Vrel replied. "Perhaps this is how they begin colonization. One ship arrives claiming to help, establishes access to vital systems. Then their allies arrive for the real invasion." Ruck's scales darkened with concern. "The human vessel has been nothing but transparent with us. Captain Reed even granted me limited access to their engineering systems, so we could establish compatible communication protocols. All the better to infiltrate our networks," Vrel insisted. The debate was interrupted by an urgent communication from the station's perimeter sensors. An unidentified shuttle had been detected, approaching a remote research module. A shuttle bearing markings, similar to those on the human vessel. "You see," Vrel exclaimed, "they're already beginning infiltration operations." Counselor Venn turned to Saran. "Contact Captain Reed immediately. We need an explanation." When reached, Reed appeared genuinely shocked by the report. "We have launched no shuttles," she insisted. "All our small craft are accounted for. This is an impersonation attempt." "Convenient denial," Vrel commented off-screen. Reed's expression hardened. "Counselor Venn, I give you my word as a Vanguard officer that this is not our craft. In fact," she turned to speak to someone off-screen, then faced the consortium again. "We're detecting energy readings consistent with weapons charging on that shuttle. It appears to be preparing to attack your research module." "Weapons?" Venn repeated, her luminescence dimming in alarm. "The module is defenseless. It contains our quantum physics laboratory and 26 researchers." "With your permission," Reed said urgently, "we can intercept the shuttle before it reaches the module, but we need your explicit authorization to operate within your station's perimeter." Venn hesitated only briefly. "Permission granted, Captain Reed. Please protect our people." The transmission ended, and Vrel immediately protested. "You've just authorized a Deathworlder warship to engage in combat near our station. The structural damage could be catastrophic. The alternative is losing the research module and everyone aboard," Counselor Venn replied firmly. "I've made my decision." From the Vanguard, Reed coordinated a rapid response. "Launch Tactical Team Alpha in Interceptor 2. Target the unknown shuttle's propulsion systems only. Disable. Don't destroy. We need to know who's behind this masquerade." The sleek interceptor craft shot from the Vanguard's launch bay, accelerating toward the distant research module, where the mysterious shuttle was now maneuvering into attack position. Lieutenant Commander Ishida, piloting the interceptor, pushed the engines to maximum as they closed the distance. "Unidentified shuttle," Ishida broadcast. "This is United Earth Vanguard Fleet Interceptor 2. Power down your weapons and identify yourself immediately." No response came except for a sudden energy spike as the shuttle fired on the research module. A section of the module's outer hull exploded outward, atmosphere venting into space. "Taking hostile fire," reported Ishida as the shuttle swung around, now targeting the interceptor. "Returning fire, targeting propulsion only." The interceptor's precision weapons struck the shuttle's engine housing, causing it to veer off course. A second shot disabled its weapons array. With its primary systems compromised, the shuttle suddenly accelerated away from the module, heading toward the system's edge. "Should we pursue?" Ishida asked. "Negative," Reed responded. "Priority is rescue and assistance. Dock with the research module and render aid to any survivors." On the consortium arc, the attack created chaos. Emergency teams rushed to seal off the damaged section, while medical personnel prepared to receive casualties. Dr. Alex found himself working alongside Counselor Venn to coordinate the response. "The module's primary containment systems are holding," reported Chief Engineer Ruck from the Emergency Control Center. "But we have 19 confirmed casualties and 7 researchers unaccounted for." "The human interceptor has docked with the module," added a sensor technician. "They're deploying what appear to be emergency response teams." Vrel, who had insisted on overseeing the crisis response personally, scoffed. "So they attack our module, then play the heroes? A transparent tactic." "We don't know who attacked us," Soren countered. "The shuttle fled rather than be captured, which suggests they feared identification." "Convenient for the humans," Vrel replied. A communication alert sounded, and Captain Reed's image appeared on the main display. Her uniform showed signs of smoke damage, and a small cut on her forehead suggested she had joined the rescue operation personally. "Counselor Venn, we've stabilized the module's atmosphere and are treating the injured. 7 of your researchers were trapped in a sealed laboratory section. We've restored emergency power to their area, but the connecting corridor is compromised. We're cutting through now." "Thank you, Captain," Venn replied, genuine gratitude in her voice. "Our emergency teams are en route, but your quick response has undoubtedly saved lives." "We recovered fragments of the attacking shuttle's hull," Reed continued. "The markings were designed to mimic our own, but the materials and construction are completely different. This was a deliberate attempt to create mistrust between us." "By whom?" asked Soren. "Unknown at present, but—" Reed was interrupted by an urgent message from her ship. After listening briefly, she looked back at the consortium with increased urgency. "The 3 vessels we detected earlier have accelerated dramatically. New estimated arrival, 30 minutes, and they're making no attempt to hide their approach now." "Have you identified them?" Venn asked. "Not definitively, but their configuration is consistent with raider vessels we've encountered in other sectors. Typically pirates or mercenaries who prey on isolated outposts and vulnerable shipping." "Pirates?" Ruck's scales paled. "We have no defensive capabilities whatsoever." "The Vanguard will position itself between these vessels and your station," Reed assured them. "We've also received word that our fleet has accelerated their approach. The lead elements should arrive shortly after these unknown vessels." "So we're caught between 2 potential hostile forces," Vrel observed bitterly. Reed's expression hardened. "Counselor Venn, I understand Director Vrel's concerns, but I give you my word that the United Earth Vanguard Fleet exists to protect civilizations like yours from exactly this kind of threat. We will defend your station regardless of whether you trust our motives." After the transmission ended, the consortium leadership found themselves facing an unprecedented crisis. For the first time in their collective memory, they were confronting the possibility of armed conflict in their midst. "We should evacuate," Vrel insisted. "We have enough transport capacity to remove approximately 30% of our population immediately." "And abandon the rest?" Counselor Venn challenged. "Alongside generations of research and the most advanced quantum technology we've ever developed? No. We must trust that Captain Reed's intentions are as she states them. Trust Deathworlders with our survival? Vrel's voice rose incredulously. Dr. Alex, who had been quietly analyzing the situation, finally spoke. What choice do we have, Director? If these approaching vessels are indeed raiders, they won't hesitate to destroy what they can't plunder, and they'll have no interest in cultural exchange or diplomatic relations. He turned to Ven. I believe Captain Reed is sincere. The humans responded to what they thought was a distress call, an act of compassion, not aggression. Compassion from Deathworlders, Vrel scoffed. Perhaps, Soran suggested quietly. We've misunderstood what it means to evolve on a death world. Perhaps the constant struggle for survival doesn't just create physical strength, but also a powerful drive to protect others facing similar threats. Before Vrel could respond, the station's sensors registered new spatial distortions. The raiders had arrived, 3 angular vessels with scarred hulls and visible weapons arrays now holding position just beyond weapons range of the Vanguard. Simultaneously, another alert sounded. More spatial distortions. This time behind the raiders. The human fleet had arrived. 5 massive vessels emerged from jump space in perfect formation. The central ship dwarfed even the raiders, its sleek lines and imposing presence marking it clearly as the flagship Dauntless. The 4 escort vessels immediately moved to create a containment formation around the raider ships, cutting off their escape routes. This is Admiral Helena Zhao of the United Earth Vanguard Fleet flagship Dauntless, came a calm, authoritative voice over all communication channels. Unidentified vessels, power down your weapon systems and prepare to be boarded. This system is under fleet protection by request of the Celestari Consortium. The raider vessels responded by powering up their weapons and shields, clearly preparing for conflict. Admiral Zhao, Captain Reed transmitted from the Vanguard. These vessels match the configuration of the Craxus sect raiders we encountered in the Procyon sector last year. They're unlikely to surrender without a show of force. Understood. Captain Reed, maintain your position protecting the station. Battle Group Delta, execute containment protocol. What followed was unlike anything the Consortium observers had ever witnessed. The human vessels moved with precision that seemed impossible for their size. Their coordinated maneuvers, speaking of years of disciplined training. The raiders fired first, their energy weapons lashing out at the Dauntless, only to be absorbed by shimmering defensive fields. The human fleet's response was measured but overwhelming. Targeted strikes disabled the raiders' primary weapon systems within minutes, while precision maneuvers prevented their escape. When one raider attempted to break formation and charge toward the station, the Vanguard intercepted it, using what appeared to be improvised quantum field projectors to disrupt the raiders' targeting systems. They've adapted our beacon technology, Rook observed in astonishment, watching the tactical display. They've created quantum dampers that blind their opponent's sensors. How could they develop such applications so quickly? Deathworlders, Soren murmured. Adaptability under pressure is their evolutionary heritage. The battle lasted less than 20 minutes. 2 raider vessels were captured intact, their crews detained by human boarding parties. The third managed to activate some form of emergency jump drive, disappearing into a ragged tear in space-time. Damaged, but escaped. In the aftermath, Admiral Zhao established direct communication with the Consortium Council. Unlike Captain Reed's more diplomatic approach, the Admiral was direct and authoritative. The captured raiders have been identified as members of the Craxus sect, a pirate organization that preys on isolated colonies and research outposts across multiple sectors, she informed them. Preliminary interrogation suggests they detected your quantum pulse and recognized it as a sign of advanced technology operated by a non-militarized civilization. In other words, an easy target. How did they disguise their shuttle to look like one of yours? Asked Counselor Ven. Standard Craxus tactic, Zhao replied. They study potential defenders, then create convincing duplicates to sow confusion and mistrust. They've used the same approach against our border colonies, impersonating other species we have treaties with. And now, Director Vrel asked. His earlier hostility somewhat diminished after witnessing the raiders' clear aggression. Now we establish a proper defense perimeter around your system, while our diplomatic corps works with your council to establish formal relations. Captain Reed reports that your cosmic liaison beacon represents a significant scientific achievement, one that other, less scrupulous forces might seek to exploit. The United Earth Vanguard fleet can offer protection, while you develop appropriate security measures. In exchange for what? Vrel pressed. Admiral Zhao's expression remained impassive. In exchange for scientific and cultural exchange, as is standard with all our diplomatic partners. We protect, you teach. We have much to learn from a civilization that developed quantum entanglement communications to such a sophisticated degree. Over the next several days, the situation stabilized. The human fleet established a defensive perimeter around the consortium arc, while engineering teams from both civilizations worked to repair the damaged research module. Cultural exchange programs began, tentatively at first, then with growing enthusiasm, as the initial fear subsided. Dr. Elix found himself working closely with Cultural Officer Winters, developing a more comprehensive translation matrix to facilitate deeper communication. During one such session, she asked him a question that caught him off guard. Why did you initially fear us so much, even before you knew anything about human civilization? Soren considered his response carefully. I suppose, because your evolution on a high-gravity world with predator pressure represented something fundamentally foreign to our experience. The consortium species all evolved on worlds where cooperation and symbiosis were the primary survival strategies. The concept of a species shaped by constant physical threat, by the need to fight or flee. It seemed to imply an inherent aggression we found frightening. Winters nodded thoughtfully. It's a common misconception about Deathworlders, as you call us. Yes, our evolution included significant environmental challenges and predator pressure. But those same pressures also selected strongly for cooperation, for empathy, for the ability to form bonds of mutual protection. A lone human in our evolutionary past was vulnerable. A coordinated group was formidable. I'm beginning to understand that, Soren admitted. Watching your fleet's response to the raiders was illuminating. The precision, the restraint, the obvious concern for minimizing casualties on all sides. These are not the actions of mindless aggressors. Just as your beacon was not merely a scientific achievement, Winters replied. It was an act of optimism, a belief that reaching out to unknown civilizations was worth the risk. A week after the battle, a joint memorial service was held for the consortium technicians and researchers who had died in the raider attack. In a gesture of solidarity, Admiral Zhao included the 2 human Marines who had fallen during the boarding actions against the raider vessels. The ceremony took place in the station's central atrium, a vast space where the light of the binary stars created shifting patterns across the gathered assembly. Cultural Officer Winters and Dr. Elix co-hosted the event, each speaking in the other's language as a symbol of their growing understanding. Today, we honor those who gave their lives in the pursuit of knowledge and in defense of others. Winters began and carefully practiced Thelai, the primary language of Dr. Elix's species. Though our civilizations evolved on different worlds, under different suns, we share the universal desire to explore, to connect, and to protect what we value. Soren continued in English, a language he was rapidly mastering. The cosmic liaison beacon was created to bridge the vast distances between civilizations. Though its first use brought unexpected consequences, it has ultimately fulfilled its purpose, bringing together peoples who might otherwise never have met, creating connections that transcend our differences. As the ceremony concluded, Councillor Venn approached Admiral Zhao with a formal proposal from the Consortium Council. We wish to establish what we're calling a quantum defense pact with humanity, she announced. A formal alliance recognizing our mutual interests in scientific advancement and security. Would your government consider such an arrangement? Admiral Zhao's normally stern expression softened slightly. I believe they would, Counselor. Captain Reed's initial report on your civilization has already generated significant interest among our diplomatic corps and scientific community. Your achievements in quantum physics alone make you valuable allies. And our complete lack of defensive capability, asked Ven, with a touch of self-deprecating humor, makes you precisely the kind of civilization the Vanguard fleet was created to protect, Zhao replied. Not all strength is measured in weapons, Counselor. Your people's dedication to knowledge and peaceful cooperation represents a different kind of power, one the galaxy needs just as much as defensive fleets. The following day, Captain Reed prepared to depart with the Vanguard, while the Dauntless and 2 escort vessels would remain to establish the formal alliance and defense perimeter. Reed's ship was being dispatched to continue its patrol of the sector's boundaries. Before leaving, she met one final time with Dr. Elix in the station's observation dome, where the binary stars created a spectacular vista of swirling light. I understand you'll be working with our engineers to refine the beacon technology, she said, watching the stars dance across the void. Yes, Soren confirmed. We've discovered ways to modulate the quantum signal more precisely, to ensure it can't be misinterpreted as a distress call in the future. And your quantum damper technology has given us ideas for defensive applications we'd never considered. A productive exchange, then. Indeed. Soran hesitated, then added, I've been studying human history since your arrival. Your species has faced so many challenges: environmental catastrophes, internal conflicts, resource limitations. Yet you've overcome them all to reach the stars. Reed smiled slightly. Not without cost, not without mistakes. But yes, we persevered. That's the quality I find most remarkable about Deathworlders, Soren admitted. Not your physical strength or your martial skill, but your resilience, your capacity to face overwhelming odds and still believe in a better future. Perhaps that's the true legacy of evolving on a challenging world, Reed suggested. Not aggression, but hope. The unshakable conviction that survival is possible, that adaptation can overcome any obstacle, that tomorrow might be better than today. A valuable perspective, Soren agreed. One the consortium has perhaps lacked in our comfortable existence. As they said their farewells, Soren presented Reed with a small crystal containing the complete historical and cultural database of the consortium, a gesture of trust unprecedented in their civilization's history. So your people can truly understand who we are, he explained. Reed accepted it with appropriate solemnity, then offered a small device in return. And this contains selected cultural and historical records from Earth and our colonies. Not our military or technological secrets. Those will come with the formal alliance, but our art, our literature, our philosophy, the parts of us that explain why we fight, what we believe is worth protecting. Later, as the Vanguard prepared to depart, Communications Officer Torres approached Reed on the bridge. Captain, we're receiving an unusual transmission from the station, audio only, on a private channel. Put it through to my ready room, Reed ordered. Once alone, she activated the message, surprised to hear Director Vrel's distinctive voice. Captain Reed, I owe you an apology. My suspicion of your intentions was excessive. In my defense, I am charged with protecting a civilization that has never needed to consider the concept of external threats. Your response to the raiders has demonstrated that sometimes the most fearsome warriors can also be the most honorable protectors. The consortium needs allies like humanity, not despite your evolution as Deathworlders, but because of it. Safe journey, Captain. Reed smiled slightly as the message ended. The alliance between the Celestari Consortium and humanity was just beginning, but it already showed promise of becoming something remarkable, a bridge between different evolutionary paths, different worldviews, different strengths. As the Vanguard engaged its jump drive, leaving the binary star system behind, Reed found herself reflecting on the strange twist of fate that had brought them here. A mistranslated glyph, a distress call never meant to be sent, had led to first contact with a civilization that complemented humanity's in fascinating ways. Perhaps, she thought, watching the stars elongate into streams of light as the jump drive engaged. That was how the best alliances were formed, not through careful planning, but through the unexpected challenges that revealed the true character of those involved. The consortium had accidentally summoned Deathworlders to their doorstep, and in doing so, found not the monsters they feared, but the protectors they needed. The quantum signal of the cosmic liaison beacon continued to propagate outward through the galaxy, no longer a cry for help, but an invitation to dialogue, backed now by the combined strength of scientific brilliance and martial prowess, of peaceful innovation and steadfast defense. And somewhere in the vast darkness between the stars, other civilizations were listening.